The morning sun of Xerion Prime cast long shadows across the Galactic Naval Academy's marble courtyards. Students from a dozen different worlds moved between the towering buildings, their diverse forms creating a vibrant mosaic of alien life. Some had scales that glittered in the light, others had multiple limbs, or eyes that could perceive colors beyond human imagination. Yet, their hushed, disdainful conversations all centered on the same subject: the humans. Zixthra moved through the crowd with an air of innate superiority, her crystalline skin refracting the sunlight into sharp, brilliant beams. Other students instinctively made way. She was known as one of the sharpest tactical minds in her year. Close behind was Krexer, a Voran whose biologically enhanced brain could process battlefield data faster than the Academy's main computers. "Did you hear what Morrison tried to teach us yesterday?" Zixthra said, her voice carrying the melodic chime of her species. "He actually suggested that human cavalry charges held tactical merit." Cavalry, in the age of plasma lances and sonic artillery. Krexer's 4 eyes blinked in a rapid, amused sequence. "They are fixated on the most primitive forms of combat. It is no wonder the Galactic Council enacted the restriction protocol. They are a danger to themselves and any coordinated fleet." They entered the vast lecture hall, where the air buzzed with conversation in 20 different languages, all echoing the same theme: the human restriction protocol. Every cadet knew the official story. Humanity had joined the galactic community 50 years prior, only to prove so tactically unstable and brutish during their first military engagements that the Council had no choice but to limit them to minor advisory and reconnaissance roles. It was, everyone agreed, for the greater good. "They are simply too primitive for modern warfare," stated Velter, a student whose sleek, moist skin glistened under the lights. "Their cognition is rooted in individual aggression, not the synchronized logic of fleet actions." "Precisely," Zixthra agreed. "They lack the mental architecture for true strategic thought. Their minds are clouded by emotion and instinct." The chatter ceased as Lieutenant Jake Morrison entered. He was tall for a human, with calm gray eyes and a quiet dignity that seemed to weather the students' barely concealed scorn. After 3 years teaching at the academy, he was accustomed to it. "Good morning," he began, his voice even. "Today we will continue our analysis of human military history by examining the siege doctrines applied during the Battle of Earth." A wave of derisive laughter rippled through the room. Zixthra raised a hand, not waiting for acknowledgement. "Lieutenant Morrison, with respect, why must we study these archaic methods? The restriction protocol exists because your species demonstrated an inability to adapt to modern warfare. Should our time not be spent on the successful doctrines of advanced civilizations?" Morrison's expression remained neutral. "The curriculum requires an understanding of all member species' military histories. That includes humanity. But the protocol exists for a reason," Krexer interjected. "Humans proved during first contact that they cannot be trusted with large-scale operations. Your own council agreed you are too unpredictable and dangerous." Morrison ignored the murmurs of agreement and activated a holographic display of ancient Earth battlefields. "Let us examine the tactical adaptations made during the siege. Note how human commanders leveraged severe resource limitations and terrain." "Adapted?" Zixthra laughed, the sound like shattering glass. "You mean they threw bodies at the problem until it went away? There is no elegance, no precision. It is brute force and a callous disregard for casualties." As the laughter swelled, Morrison continued his lesson to a rapidly dwindling audience. From the back of the hall, Dr. Helen Carter, the Academy's human liaison, watched with growing unease. For 5 years, she had worked to integrate humanity into galactic society, but the disdain had only hardened into active contempt. The students saw the restriction protocol as definitive proof of human inferiority. What troubled her most was the truth she carried. A truth locked in classified files these arrogant students would never see. Footage and reports from humanity's early military operations that would shatter everything they believed. But those files were sealed by the Galactic Council for what it deemed the preservation of galactic stability. As class ended, The students filed out, their jokes about human incompetence echoing in the hall. Zixthra was already outlining a new research paper, Why Humans Should Remain Restricted, a case study in inferior combat psychology. Carter approached Morrison. "Another productive day?" she asked with bitter humor. "They will learn," he replied, packing his materials, "or they will graduate believing we are barbarians who stumbled into spaceflight." Carter's gaze drifted toward her office and the secrets it contained. "Maybe it's time they learned the truth." Morrison met her eyes. "Maybe it is." 3 days later, Zixthra stood before the massive desk of Dean Soardell, a datapad filled with student signatures in her hand. The dean was an imposing sight, his 6 arms moving in independent, fluid motions as he managed multiple tasks simultaneously. "Dean Soardell," Zixthra began confidently, "I present a petition, signed by over 200 students from 11 species. We formally request the removal of human military history from our core curriculum." The dean's multiple hands stilled, his full attention on her. "These are serious grounds. Elaborate." Krexer stepped forward. "Sir, studying primitive human warfare is intellectually regressive. The time is better spent on advanced strategic concepts from developed civilizations. The restriction protocol itself proves they are unfit for modern military operations." "You believe their doctrine holds no educational value?" the dean inquired. "None," Zixthra stated firmly. "Their tactics are based on primal instinct and emotional response. They lack the mathematical precision of true military science. Studying them corrupts strategic thinking." The dean was silent for a long moment. "I will consider your petition, but first you will attend a special presentation this afternoon. A human military observer is visiting and has offered to share historical footage." Zixthra's crystalline form brightened. "Perfect. Direct evidence of their failures will make our case undeniable." As the students departed, pleased with themselves, Dean Soardell activated his comm. "Dr. Carter, Commander Turner. My office, please." 20 minutes later, Carter sat across from the dean, while Commander Alex Turner stood by the window. Turner was older than Morrison, his hair shot with gray, his hands scarred from service in conflicts the students had never heard of. "The students wish to see footage of human military operations," the dean explained. "They believe it will support their petition to remove your history from the curriculum. They expect to see failure and incompetence," Carter added nervously. Turner was quiet, then produced a small, black data core from his uniform, its surface marked with red warning labels in multiple languages. "Commander, that is Council classified," Carter said, recognizing the markings. "Are you certain?" "These students are our future commanders," Turner replied. "If they are to mock human warfare, they should understand what they are mocking." "What does it contain?" the dean asked, accepting the core. "Combat footage from the Kepler 442 incident," Turner stated. "Full documentation of operations conducted before the protocol was implemented." Carter felt a chill. She had read the reports. The written accounts alone were harrowing. "The Council sealed this to prevent panic," she argued. "The classification was for civilian populations. These are military cadets." Turner's gaze was steady. "Let them see what happened when 200 human soldiers encountered 50,000 Vakthar swarm warriors." The dean's large, black eyes widened. Every species knew of the Vakthar, an insectoid race that had consumed 3 star systems before vanishing 50 years ago. Historians assumed they had moved on. "The humans fought the Vakthar?" the dean asked. "The humans destroyed the Vakthar," Turner corrected. "Completely. That is why they vanished. The Council decided that truth was too disturbing for general knowledge. And you wish to show this to my students? Let them see what human warfare actually looks like. Then let them decide about the curriculum." The Academy's main auditorium was packed, buzzing with anticipation. Zixthra had ensured a full house, all expecting to witness the fumbling, primitive tactics that confirmed humanity's inferiority. Dr. Carter stood at the podium, her hands trembling slightly as she connected the data core. "Before we begin," she announced, I must warn you, this footage contains disturbing content. It may challenge your preconceptions. Laughter filled the room. We are future officers, Doctor, Zixthra called out. I believe we can handle watching humans make mistakes. Carter exchanged a grim look with Commander Turner. Very well. This is from the Kepler 442 incident 50 years ago. The lights dimmed. The screen showed a human outpost under a foreign sky. The timestamp marked it from exactly 50 years prior. The situation was a routine evacuation, Carter narrated. A civilian colony was threatened by an approaching Vector swarm. A human unit was assigned to assist. On screen, Captain Lisa Brooks, a woman with short-cropped blonde hair and weary eyes, was coordinating with her sergeant, Danny Rodriguez. The evacuation is on schedule, she said. We have maybe 6 hours before Vector scouts reach the perimeter. The alien students leaned in, ready to critique. Instead of packing for evacuation, the humans were unpacking more weapons and setting up permanent-looking fortifications. What are they doing? Zixthra frowned. Those are not evacuation preparations. Carter paused the footage. I should clarify the tactical situation. The approaching Vector swarm numbered approximately 50,000 warriors. The human force numbered exactly 200. A ripple of confusion went through the audience. The numbers were nonsensical. On screen, Captain Brooks received a new communication. Her expression hardened. Change of plans, she told her troops. The Vector main force is moving faster. The civilian transports won't finish in time. How long do we have? Rodriguez asked. 2 hours, maybe less. By all logic, this was the moment for a full retreat. 200 could not hold against 50,000. Captain Brooks looked at her soldiers. Then she gave an order that froze the blood of every student in the auditorium. We are not withdrawing. The human soldiers showed no surprise. A few even smiled. Sir, Rodriguez said, 50,000 against our unit. Those are impossible odds. Yes, they are, Brooks agreed, which means they will not expect us to engage. We are not running, Sergeant. We are going to kill them all. Complete silence filled the auditorium. The footage resumed, showing the humans preparing not for a defense, but for a slaughter. They created kill zones and bait positions. They are creating channels for the enemy, observed a student specializing in defense. But that only works with superior firepower. What you are about to see is authentic, Carter reiterated. The Vector had never been defeated. They consumed 3 systems. What happened next changed the galaxy. The first Vector scouts appeared, monstrous, building-sized insectoids moving with terrifying speed. They met concentrated fire from weapons seemingly designed for their armor. How did they know their weaknesses? A student whispered. As thousands more Vector arrived, the humans grew calmer. 10,000 contacts and climbing, Rodriguez reported, his voice steady. Good, Brooks replied. The more that come, the more we kill in one place. Zixthra stood up. This is impossible. No rational mind sees worse odds as an advantage. Dr. Carter paused the footage. Miss Zixthra, you have studied human psychology. What condition would cause a commander to see impossible odds as a tactical advantage? Madness, Zixthra answered, her analytical mind reeling. Only madness. Yes, Carter agreed quietly. That is what the council concluded. Now ask yourself, what happens when madness is applied systematically to warfare? The footage continued into a nightmare. The humans used themselves as live bait. Squad 7 advanced to an exposed position, let themselves be seen, and held their ground as thousands of Vector charged. At the last second, Rodriguez's voice came over the comm. Now, the ground erupted. Hidden charges vaporized Squad 7 along with over 2,000 Vector. The auditorium was dead silent. They killed themselves, Krexer whispered, his enhanced brain struggling to compute. They sacrificed themselves. On screen, Captain Brooks noted the event calmly. Squad 7 eliminated. Enemy losses approximately 2,000. Acceptable exchange ratio. Acceptable, Zixthra cried out. The horror escalated. The humans used their wounded as bait, luring the sound-sensitive Vactor into more elaborate kill zones. They weaponized their own suffering. They channeled the swarm toward what the Vactor believed were civilian evacuation sites. Sites the humans had already cleared. The final phase began. Remember, Brooks told her few remaining soldiers. We do not need to survive this. We only need to complete the mission. The students watched, sickened, as Captain Brooks led a final, personal charge into the heart of the swarm, her goal not to break the line, but to reach the Vactor Queen. Claws ripped through her armor, but she fought on, a grim smile on her face, until the Queen itself impaled her. With her last breath, Brooks activated a device, injecting something into the Queen. The creature convulsed and died. Within seconds, every Vactor warrior on the planet fell. The footage ended with a final tally on the screen. Human casualties: 197 Kia, 3 WIA. Vactor casualties: 50,000 Kia, 0 survivors. Mission status: total victory. The silence in the auditorium was absolute, thick with terror and disbelief. Finally, Zixthra found her voice. Why? She asked, her form dull with shock. Why would anyone fight like that? Because that is what humans do when we decide something must be stopped, Dr. Carter said. We do not fight to survive. We fight to win, regardless of cost. Commander Turner stepped forward. The Galactic Council did not enact the restriction protocol to protect the galaxy from our incompetence. They enacted it to protect the galaxy from our competence. The terrible truth settled over the students. The protocol was not about human weakness. It was about a strength so terrifying it had to be chained. The next morning, the academy was a different place. The usual chatter was gone, replaced by a somber, thoughtful quiet. Zixthra sat alone in the library, surrounded by human psychological texts. Her crystalline luster dimmed. Krexer found her. I have been running simulations all night, he said. Their decisions should not have worked. No logic predicts that success. That is because no logic can simulate that. Focus, Zixthra replied. I have been reading their doctrine. They have entire sections on acceptable casualty rates. They plan for 90% losses. They plan for almost everyone to die. Other students gathered, drawn by the conversation. They all needed to understand. But why? Velter asked, her skin pale. Why develop such horror? Because it works, said Lieutenant Morrison, who had approached quietly. He looked tired. You saw the result. 200 soldiers eliminated an extinction-level threat. Zixthra looked at him, her previous scorn replaced by a fearful awe. You knew what was on that footage. I served in a similar action before the restriction, Morrison admitted. That is why I teach here. Some of us requested non-combat roles after seeing what we are capable of. Dean Ciordell arrived with faculty members. Students, he said, regarding your petition on human military studies. Zixthra stood. Dean, I withdraw the petition. I was wrong. Human military doctrine is not primitive. It is something we must understand to avoid. My recommendation, Krexer added, is that the restriction protocol be maintained, not to protect them from us, but to protect us from them. The implication was clear to all. If 200 humans could do that, what could a fleet accomplish? There is something else, Dr. Carter said quietly. The Kepler 442 incident was 50 years ago. Human military science has advanced since then. You mean they have gotten better? Velter whispered. Much better, Morrison confirmed. Profound silence fell. Then why do you accept the restrictions? Zixthra asked. Because we choose to, Morrison said, looking out at the peaceful, multi-species campus. We understand what we are capable of. We accept the chains because we wish to be part of galactic civilization, not its masters through terror. The day we choose to break them. He left the sentence hanging, the unspoken threat more powerful than any weapon. In the weeks that followed, Morrison's classes became the most attended at the academy. The library's human history section was constantly full. The students now understood the restriction protocol for what it was, the most vital peace treaty in galactic history. Zixthra presented her final paper to a packed auditorium. Its new title was Why the Human Restriction Protocol Must Be Maintained, a study of voluntary restraint as ultimate power. We have learned, she concluded, that humans are not restricted because they are primitive, but because they have weaponized concepts other species cannot comprehend. Acceptable loss, tactical sacrifice, victory through self-destruction. Every species in the galaxy fights to survive. Humans fight to win, and survival is negotiable. Therefore, the protocol must stand, not as a punishment, but as protection for all galactic civilization. The applause was grim, not celebratory, the sound of beings who had stared into the abyss and finally seen what looked back. Later, Zixthra visited Morrison in his office. Lieutenant, one final question. The footage showed you accepting terrible losses for victory. Yet you also accept these restrictions that limit your power. Why? Morrison gazed out at the alien students mingling below. Because some victories are not worth the price, he said quietly. We could rule the galaxy through fear, but what kind of existence is that? We choose to be better than our capabilities. That is the most human victory of all. As she left, Zixthra understood the final, most crucial lesson. The most dangerous beings in the universe are not those with the power to destroy everything, but those who possess that power and consciously choose not to use it. And somewhere in the void, humanity continued its patrols, guarding the borders of a civilization that feared them, honoring restrictions they alone could break, and bearing the silent, terrible burden of being the galaxy's most necessary monsters.